In 1987, I was recruited to lead a revolutionary project that moved the United States labor exchange from paper to computers. It allowed virtually instant access to people and jobs. Now, this was before the internet. Imagine that? So it was a very complex problem. We implemented 14 hubs and spokes in different parts of California, and every day people would go and get services. Every night the data would go up to Sacramento, get turned around. The next morning we'd have statewide data. Before this, all the job matching was done in offices with pieces of paper, and people who were looking for jobs could only get jobs from the very office and the very community that they walked into. So how did we get here? Well, in the Great Depression, 25% of the labor force was unemployed, and the FDR administration and Congress enacted a set of laws that created a labor exchange, a place of physical offices where people could go in across the country, they could look for work, and employers could post their jobs. And over the years, government leaders realized that many people didn't have the skills they needed to get jobs, and so over the years, a set of reforms in helping people build skills as well as matching them to jobs were born. In the Great Recession, over 140 million people went into career centers around the country, there are about 2,500 of them, to get help in building skills and jobs. These are women who were formerly incarcerated, who went through our programs and are now working at a bakery. So the government continues to play a part in helping vulnerable populations find skills and work, but in the meantime, the private sector has moved into the space in a huge way. Government isn't the only player in this work any longer. But government still automates paper processes. I would imagine that many of the processes that we have in our job centers today stem back from the paper process that we used in 1933. What happens is we create laws and regulations, we automate them, we get sort of good new technology, and that's really how people experience government. They experience government through the paper process that's now been automated. This doesn't work for people who need government to help them. So we decided in thinking about this that we were going to do something different. And in my office in San Francisco, I invested a little bit of money to work with IDEO, and I became obsessed with human-centered design. In July of 2015, we launched a webinar. We included some people from the White House on that webinar, and the last count was that over 10,000 people have seen that webinar. We usually get 200 or 300 people watching our webinars. We issued a set of challenges. We asked teams of people across the country to go through a class in human-centered design and improve the customer experience for vulnerable populations. I thought we'd have 10 or 12 teams sign up. We had 80 teams sign up in the first round, and we had 120 teams sign up in the second round. We had free online training that IDEO does with Acumen. We provide coaches to help our teams work through the process. And we've trained over 1,000 people across the country in human-centered design. People who are now skilled novices in looking first at the customer and then at rules and regulations. Here's a couple of examples of work that was done. This is David. He said he was copying his friend's resume because he didn't know how to write one. And I'm obsessed with human-centered design, but when I saw that slide, my first reaction was, we've got resume writing workshops. We just need to get him into one of our job centers. And the insight using human-centered design was, he does not need to go to a class to learn how to write a resume. He just needs a resume. So let's put together templates of resumes that we can use in all of our job centers. When we were working with the long-term unemployed, there was a new population that was coming in during the recession that they're more experienced, they were more skilled, they hadn't looked for work, and we needed to spend some time in thinking about who those people were. Some people came into our offices and they were panicked. They're about to lose their house or their car. They did not need career counseling. They did not need resume writing skills. They didn't even need a job. They needed money. And those people were very different from people who came in who were just stalled. They had spent months sending in resumes out into the black hole. They never heard anything back. They didn't know what to do next. And there were a group of people who were coming in who didn't know how to translate their skills into different kinds of occupations and industries because their industry was going away. So this insight in how to use emotion as a way to help design programs was very important. And this is a prototype of a center that decided, instead of doing the one-size-fits-all orientation that we used to send people into, instead they would do something similar to speed dating, where someone would triage them the moment they came through the door and send them to the right set of services. The human-centered design training that our teams have gone through has really changed the way people feel about their jobs and the way they've worked with each other. I believe that public servants want to change their systems, but they just don't know how to get out of that long train, that long history from back in 1933. And design thinking is a disruptor. It's a new framework. It's a new way of thinking about how they can get their work done. So this is what we did. We found someone who was obsessed, that's me. We started small, did a couple projects with IDEO and built some champions and created some stories. We aligned a set of partners. We created incentives. We happened to have the White House, which was a very good incentive. And I think the thing that I love the most about this work is that, to a person, when I've talked to people who participated in these teams, they said that this work reconnected them to their mission and their love of being a public servant. Thank you.